So I decided I'm going to do a Soundcar on this caboose. I wanted to find a chassis like this one, and I wanted to be a good quality one. I think Atlas used to make some, but finding them is really tough. So I thought I'd go ahead and do this one. I've got just a few of the. I bought it because I did a steam engine and I needed some red LEDs, and I believe it's a 402. So that's the trickiest part, just soldering onto that. That's the front. I'll wear some goggle things so I can see. So anyway, I'll tell you how I got this apart because it's pretty tricky. I've got a little flathead screwdriver I use. It's very small, and I go behind the yellow and the blue at the top here, just under the roof, and press down and carefully twist, and you should hear a cracking sound. And as long as it's not breaking something along what you're seeing outside here, that's a good thing. That's a CA popping loose. Okay, so you want to do that for both sides. I did mine one side at a time because when it breaks away, it's going to leave some stuff, some little pieces of stuff. I use an X-Acto to take some off on mine, but just so it goes right back in the way it came off. That's why I paid attention to which end is which. And yes, the one little piece there did break, that vertical handrail. It's very fragile. I'm not going to fix it until I'm done. All right, so what I did is I've got these Details West lenses. They're a scale 6-inch diameter, and they have like you can see it. It's got a little bit of a stair step there, and then it's kind of rounded. So, okay, once I got that off the end here, it's still going to be attached down here on the end. So you got to do the same thing. You go in there with the screwdriver. I would go underneath and just very, very carefully push it in there and just kind of twist until it pops loose. And then this whole end piece will be completely loose, and that's what you want. So I find the best I can of center and drill a small hole. And then they say I used a 0.062 drill, or a number 52. And I drilled that right through this yellow to the back side. And then you take your lens and clean the little area where it comes off the little tree where it's injected. I like to use a sharp X-Acto. It's fun because it's so tiny, and clean that up. And then I use just a tiny bit of two-sided tape and put that on my finger. I like to just put my fingers together a few times because that stuff is just way sticky. I just need it strong enough to hold the lens, right? Well, I got the lens, and I've got the necked down part of it facing up. I always put down just a tiny bit of CA, and then I'll use an X-Acto blade, the very tip of it, to get a very minute amount of CA on that little stair step, because you don't want it blobbing out the sides. And I'm sure I did a little bit because I don't want it falling out, but I don't want to use too much where it looks bad. And then I just, with my finger, it's easy to line it up, press it down, and then I like to take an X-Acto or something very small like that, because at that point I have glue on it. So I either have to wipe it off real quick, and then I'll put the X-Acto blade just under my finger to make sure it holds, and then I can carefully, I usually go from the side, I don't lift up to the side, and it will stay in place. So you can see they turned out pretty good. And that white you see in there is the LED. So after that's done, I fold over the wire. You can see that down there. So the wires come in to the side of the LED. So the LED is facing out the back the way it should. And I put some CA on there. And then I use one of these little clips. And when the LED will kind of fall into that hole that you drilled, and that's what you want. And then once it's in there and you've got a little bit of CA on the wires that are going to touch the yellow, go ahead and clip that thing and just leave it be. Let it totally dry. And then I'll come back and I'll build up a little bit more. It's almost like a little hump over those two wires, and let that totally dry. And then I take a little bit of Elmer's on a very small paintbrush and just cover the back side of that hole, because you don't want paint to get inside your drilled hole. So once the Elmer's has completely dried, I went over it with black. Everywhere that light might be able to bleed, I went over it black. And the black can't get down inside your hole because Elmer's is sealing it. And Elmer's dries clear, so that's good. That's what you want. When that dried, I went ahead and hit it with some yellow, but I don't think too many people are going to be able to see down in there, right? So, then I bend my wire over. Well, I actually did that when I lined up the LED and glued it into place. When that glue dried, then I kind of bend it over. It's going to hold it very well. And then you drill a hole above the doorway, as close to the roof as you can, and feed your wires through. Now, the only problem is this lower the lower windows are going to be in the way. So I popped that out and dremelled a pretty good sized hole. And then I took it out in the garage and hit it with a ton of air. I don't want any shavings or anything. And I was blowing on it and they just didn't want to leave, so I put some higher pressure air on it and got rid of it. So same thing, other side. Run the wires across there. It runs up through, and I put a little knot on the negative wire. And these LEDs, they don't take as much. I'll have to look back, and if I can, I buy my LEDs from Mouser, and they don't light up near as bright as some of the other lights that I use. And that's fine. This is not a headlight. It's not meant to light up that bright. All right, so I had ordered I got some templates here of what size they are. The Soundcar and the current keeper. I always put current keepers on there. Here's an example what will come. The white decoder is the decoder that does the sounds. That's your Soundcar. And then the current keeper is what keeps the Soundcar energized. And what I do is I use these Athearn, I think they're Athearn Genesis. and they have pickup wires on them. These are the 70-ton. If you're going to do a coal car, you want the 100-ton, and they make those. I modify them slightly just so I can get the two wires that come up through here. I want them closer together, so when this turns, there's hardly any movement on those wires. And then this one has a baffle. I'll use the same speaker. You can see it down in there. That's a 28mm Soundtraxx speaker. I don't know if I needed a baffle or not, but when you go a baffle, you don't have to worry about things. Sometimes if you don't, the sound waves can make things rattle. In this one, I'm not going to be able to put a baffle. In fact, I'll have to remove just a little bit of the clear plastic, because, I mean, it's a very, very thin speaker, but it's still gonna hit. So it'll sit down here on the weight. But if I don't remove some of this material when I go to put the body on, there will be interference. So the sound decoder will go on the roof here. And that reminds me, I may go ahead and cut out even more of that plastic, the clear plastic, so I can get the sound decoder closer to the roof. Because I've had an issue once where the decoder couldn't see the magnet when I went to swipe it. So I want to get that decoder as close to the roof as possible. So I plan on having it kind of go, it's most likely going to go across this opening, because with the wires and everything on it, I don't know that I can see. It doesn't really matter. But I will paint it black. And then the current keeper, see, it doesn't look like they'll both fit on top, but the only one that needs to be on top is the Soundcar because of the magnet. So down here somewhere I'll put the current keeper. It's got a pretty good long lead. You just connect that. It's just a bunch of capacitors that tie into the Soundcar to keep it alive. So you can have this thing clickety-clacking and having the lights flash on and off. Take it off the rails and that thing is still gonna perform for a while yet. So when I get to that step, I'll do some more recording. I'll have to do either some milling or just some straight out holes. If I can sneak it under, well, I can't quite go under the truck because that's where the wires are going to come up through. Many times I like to do that, especially on steam tenders, because then they're kind of camouflaged under the trucks. So anyway, I've got everything ordered, and I will add on to this video once I get to that point. Everything so far has gone really good. I didn't expect to mess with it because I just finished up a GP38 Rapido. Boy, that was fun. But if you got the patience, there's no reason why you can't do it. Just little by little. And I've been doing this for a lot of years, but you still learn things as you go. So some of my videos are longer because I want people that maybe haven't done this before, if they see every little step, I think it would be much better for somebody trying. You know, they might be nervous. Oh, I'm gonna break or destroy this, or I don't understand this technology. And it's like, no, it's really not that bad. The best thing to do is just dive in. And again, that's why some of my videos are really long, because I like to cover a lot. So when you go in, you know what you need. If you're going to follow what I've done. So when the parts come in, I'll go ahead and pick up where I left off here. I thought I'd add a quick portion to the video here. I took what's considered the window back out because there's a decent amount of work that has to be done on it. A Caboose just doesn't have a whole lot of space like some of the other cars, so I'm trying to plan carefully. So the top, I just milled it because I don't want there to be excess thickness, and with this going in there like this, the magnet would have to have an effect through this plastic. And then the other thing I had to do that I didn't think of is add, just use a screwdriver, some CA on the inside along this because it's made to snap together. So on all four sides on the inside here, I put CA, let that dry because the snap is right in the middle, and if you don't glue that prior and let it dry before, I just use a Dremel to clean that out and sand it. That way the decoder, where the mark is where the pickup for that is, and I'm probably going to put it where it just barely overlaps up in here. It flipped over, but the circle's kind of down on the end here, so that shouldn't be a problem at all when it comes to using the magnet to catch that switch. That's pretty important. And I overkilled the cutout, just made it larger and longer, so I've got some play there. I need to clean it and wipe it down. That's the two holes I had mentioned earlier for the wires to come through. So that was two important things. Typically, all right, so these screws will most likely go away, and I'll just glue the weight down. That's going to end up in the way. So what I did is I used a 1/8" drill. I don't have the trucks in yet, but I'm just kind of prepping. Normally I go to the inside, but it doesn't matter what side. So when the wires are going up through that hole, it's got the same kind of throw as if the hole was on the other side. But this way, it helps me get the hole as far out to the edge as possible. And I've already scribed for the current keeper where I think I'd like that to go. I'll end up right here in the corner. And it just has the one connection. It'll just come around to where the Soundcar decoder's glued in place. So that way I've got all this room, and then I added the speaker to I just printed another template, and that's about the size of the 28 millimeters. So I'm going to cut that out and just kind of find where I want to put it. It can't be, these are the clips that hold the body on, so it's going to have to be back here a little bit, but that should be pretty much it. And it's going to overhang enough that the clear piece here, I'll have to, kind of like where they have a recess there for the tab, I'll probably just move along on both sides, go down. Not sure how far up yet. I'll have to double check and see how tall that speaker is, because the edges of it will go, I want to say it goes past the weight even a tiny bit, and then I'll find the best place is just, I don't know if I want to mill it. It's a little fragile, something will end up breaking. But either drill holes or whatever on the underside here, and then whatever I do to there, I'll make the same holes up into the metal, just enough to see where they start, and then I'll remove the weight and then finish it off. If you noticed, I went ahead on the metal. I did go one size larger, and I can't remember off the top of my head what it is, but the plastic is an 1/8 inch, and the metal is just like 1/32 larger. And I ran a drill on the edge there, so there's no sharp edges at all here. So when the truck goes around a curve, those wires kind of move back and forth, and they don't move much because, like I said, it's pretty close to the center. And then when I have the holes drilled and everything squared away, then I'll go ahead and take those screws out and glue the weight down into place. Actually, in this, come to think about it, I probably don't have to. I can leave the screws. I don't have to glue it. I thought they'd be in the way, but now that I'm looking at it, I think this speaker's going to be here. Yeah, I'll just leave them. Alright, so I found a good area to, I'll start from the bottom. Just cut out 3 slots. I had to leave a little bit of material for that detail that attaches there. When you flip it over though, I just, on the metal portion of it, just milled straight through. And then I went ahead and sprayed it black. Little scratches you see on there, it's just so when the speaker comes on, I put this on top of it to get it aligned, and it will run into the side here, like I said, so I have to cut just a little bit out. That's more than enough to cut out there, but I just wanted to show that before I went any further. I don't think I did anything else. It's kind of time consuming. I did go ahead and carefully pop off. It's attached in 3 places here, the brake and this piping. Pop that off in the 3 spots. And I started just by drilling a hole at each end without the weight, and then put the weight back in, and then scribed where it needed to be milled. Alright, so I've got all the equipment in place. That's the current keeper. I put the clear plastic piece on here while it was still wet to see how far forward it had to go, because it looked like it was wanting to hit here, and it's right up on the edge of that speaker. I painted the rim of the speaker. Of course, this is typically purple, so I painted all that, the bottom, and just the top of the sound card decoder that you would see through the window. So I can't really show you it, but well, I can show you a second what I'm gonna do. It would be in there. That's what it would look like, and you would definitely see that through the windows. And through the top windows, you're gonna see this. So I painted just like this middle area, and you want to remember to leave, see, I'm not overlapping on the other side here all that much, because this is a side that has the reed switch that you'll have to access with a wand or a magnet to consist. So I'm just going to touch it up with a little bit more paint here. I had it together, and of course some of the resistance I came up with on those LEDs is 40,000. So I took 4 10K resistors and series them to get the brightness I wanted. 10K is as high as I've got. I used to have them, but probably didn't keep them because I never used them. But in this case, we don't want these all that bright, so it's already been programmed. I program it to the last 4 digits of the Caboose, which is 3226. I've already set up both ends as a Fred, which is CV, I think it's 52 or 51 and 52, and it's set up as, I believe it's 11 for the 11 for the Fred, plus 128 because they're LEDs. So they're set up at 139 on the FX5 and FX6 output, and then on 59 for the flash rate, you can go from 0 to 15. I did 8, and then for the hold time, you can go 0 on CV60. You can go from 0 to 15, and I did 15, and even that seemed like it fades out pretty quick. But it kind of, since it's an LED, it kind of has a bit of a stair step effect. I don't know if it'll pick up on camera, but I'll go ahead and button this up and show that with it all together. Also programmed, there's 2 air whistles that you can use on the Caboose, and I like the second one better. The first one kind of really bright and kind of annoying, in my opinion. Alright, there it is all back together. One of the ends has a little broken piece here I'll have to glue, but I'll do that later. But this is it finished. When you look through the windows, you can just barely see the top of the decoder, and see, if I hadn't painted that black, you would definitely see the purple on that. So that's why I tried to black out as much as I could. Here's the end Fred. On the camera, it looks like it's going more of a white when it goes full brightness, but I assure you it's not. It's 100% red LED. And then on this end, the same thing. Now if I want to simulate it rolling, let's turn up some, give it some speed. And then if I apply brakes, and then I'm going to release the brakes. Now there's a sound from another engine. I got 2 other engines on the track. So, you will do other sounds, which may sound silly. I'm pretty sure you can turn them off, but it'll do most of the sounds that a regular decoder does. But this is the specific train whistle, or I'm sorry, Caboose whistle. And there's a sound mixer that you can go in. You can turn down specific sounds, or CV128 will control all of the sounds. And by factory, it's on 192 out of 255. So that's what you're hearing now. So if that would be, that sounds pretty loud. you could go in specifically to whatever CV that is, I don't know, without looking at the manual, and turn that down. So you'd only use that if you're backing the train up. Now typically you would not want, see I got 3226 on the right, you would not want the address on here, because it's going to consist with the locomotive. So I'm going to press loco and DISP, and that dispatches that address. See, there's no address anymore, so I'm going to switch over to the other side, and that is engine 3537, which I've got sitting off the track because I don't want to be competing with that sound. So this is what they sell, but as long as you got a magnet, that's fine. So the first thing you want to do is have your engine pulled up or consist on your controller, and then wave your magnet. Okay, that's the release, and you press F8 4 times. Then you hear the air bleed off, and now it's consisted. So over on my throttle, when I turn this up, the caboose is going to typically, if the locomotive was on the track, you'd hear both of them running, but I don't want to compete with the sound of the engine, so I just left it off the track. This is just for a simulation. So again, I'll go ahead and apply the brakes. And then release them. You'll hear the air let off. Okay, if you're going to uncouple this caboose or any other freight car that has the Soundcar decoder in it, then you'd wave the wand again, and you'll hear the brake wheel be tightened. And that is it. Now it's separate from the consist. So what I'll do is go back in on the locomotive or the caboose, and I'll turn off my lights, and that is it. It's everything's turned off and it's been removed from the consist.